So join us on a trip across the Moravian and Czech countryside to find 3 or maybe 4 nodes on the Templar alignment. Well, we started by heading out towards the Slovak border and Velká Karlovice, where we were going to be looking for a missing Templar node. The 2 currents had to cross somewhere. It was a matter of finding where. And from there, we went on to a couple of other locations which are shown on this map. So spot number 1 is Velká Karlovice. Spot number 2 is the beautiful node that we found on a hilltop by Vsetín, where we revisited. And stop number 3 is another node on the line. Let's start out by showing how we found more points on the temple line by driving out of the valley up into the hillside, dowsing in the car.
Where's the temple? Less than a kilometre. Less than half a kilometre. Less than 400 metres. Less than 300 metres. Less than 200. Okay, it's back. It's 300 metres every time.
Looks better than the last one.
Yeah, I feel it.
Oh, that lady will be surprised a bit.
Show me the middle, show me the middle, show me the middle. Middle's here.
In this area, which is a skiing area in the winter, it's very beautiful, but it's also very remote. And so going up some of these sort of paths up into the mountains from the valley to find the Templar alignment is very, very beautiful, as you can see from this video here. And we really enjoyed exploring each and every one of the roads going up from the valley into the mountains. We found the line in all of them, and actually we found it very, very easily by remote dowsing from the car and then getting out on foot to actually confirm what we'd found. It's a great and rapid way of tracking a line across country. Well, the node was a bit of a discovery because as we were driving along, we decided to stop for a coffee. And across the road was this church, and one of the lines went through the church, but there was no node there, and we just went into this pension for coffee where we met a gentleman who started to tell us that he'd started an alternative community in the area and basically ran this alternative community, and they'd got his inspiration meditating in his pension. Well, it turned out that our missing node was his pension. We couldn't believe it. We'd sat and had a coffee there, talked to the gentleman, and then when we went outside and started dowsing, we decided, I wonder if, and yes, the wondering was correct. The node was in the pension. Finding a node at a pension, or a bed and breakfast essentially, is a first. So we found the missing node, and that's what our work looks like. We filled in a lot of gaps, added a lot more points to the lines across this part of the Czech Republic at the end of the line, and gave ourselves more confidence in finding the right line. We then moved to the Vsetín node. We wanted to revisit it because it had been such a special place. And if you remember, if you were watching, this is where we found some wood designs laid out on the node and asked one of our friends to interpret the runes. And she read the runes for us because, in fact, the sticks were laid out as runes. We also spent some time repairing the node. So we were keen to see if the node was still there, and it was. However, the person who had been using the node doesn't seem to have been there for some time because the designs around the bases of the trees were largely missing. There were some trees that still had something around the base of them in this particular location, and there did seem to be some designs still remaining on the floor. But we got the sense that whoever had been using this, and for whatever purposes, had probably given up, stopped, and maybe that had something to do with our work at the node. We're not quite sure. Anyway, here's one of the little designs with wood bark and stones and twigs and things laid out at the bottom of one of these trees, showing that some sort of shamanic or other kind of activity is still occurring, or was still occurring at this location. Here's another one with some sticks laid out in a suspicious fashion. You don't find sticks like that just normally. So somebody's been there and laid these sticks out in that fashion. For whatever reason, I don't think we really know. But it's interesting to find these things, and it's a beautiful location, and one in which we spent quite some considerable time meditating and feeling the energies. And then we decided, hey, you know what? We'll leave our own designs, but we'll make our designs match what we'd found in terms of the layout of the node energies, which I discovered or thought was a triangle. And so I put a cross within a triangle, and this is Eva's design of circles of stones and plants. We then, the next day, went to Otoslavica, where there's a tower, and the tower was once owned by the Bishop of Olomouc, who was one of the Lords of Hradec's offspring. And we decided that we'd revisit this and see if it really was a node on the Templar line. But it was such a beautiful day, we decided we'd first off head into the mountains or the hills and do some dowsing and some hiking. Of course, we couldn't resist stopping to eat the absolutely delicious berries along the way. I mean, I'm not joking. And we discovered something. Wherever you find brambles in a female energy line, they taste the sweetest. Let me tell you. We also came across this radishtia, in Czech, giant's foot, in English, giant's foot radishtia, and we discovered a beautiful node here with lots and lots of energy. So actually, this is the third node, meaning that the fourth, the tower, we discovered probably wasn't a node after all, but still a special place. So again, we spent some considerable time here meditating and looking at the archaeology that we could see of the Hradishtia, the hill fort, and just talking about how wonderful a day it was and how the energies were so vibrant. So I'm sat in a node that we've just discovered. It's a Hradisko, an old fort on the hilltop, and it's called Giant's Foot. The energies are very strong. I dowsed a male and a female just a bit outside this wall that were about less than a metre together, and the frequency seems to be 174 Hertz that resonates. The energies are so amazing, it's giving me like almost a headache because it's so strong and making us feel quite dizzy. Very good. Very weird. Wow.
It's like face.
Very strange. The views off of this hilltop were absolutely spectacular, and you can see why it'd been used as a hill fort in the past. Had a sheer drop on this side, which was very easily defendable to anybody trying to interfere with the inhabitants of the local area. So from here we walked back down into the town and to the tower. Now the tower was one of two originally. There were two castles here, side by side, and the only remaining structure is the one tower that was owned by the Bishop of Olomouc, and only half of the tower now remains. You can see the other works in the lay of the land, so to speak, but nothing is revealed except for the one tower that sticks up and is basically the focal point of the town. You can see the tower as we walk down the valley and back into the location. Here's the tower, and you can see it's a half a tower. Now we've always found really, really strong energies here. And at one point, we really thought it was a node on the Templar line. But in fact, it isn't. It seems, and we now have 3 examples, that when you have a tower like this, the energies are accentuated of the female line, or the male line that the tower's built on. And so we finally sat down in the sunshine and admired the bramble stains on our hands. The end of a lovely weekend.
Secret sign.